Hello, everybody. I bid you welcome to another episode of Comics from My Spinner Rack. Some of these are from my spinner rack, and other ones are new purchases that will find a home at my spinner rack. I saw this at Dave's Comics, Vlad the Impaler. I saw Esteban Morato, who really got my attention. He's a Spanish artist that is mostly known for, he doesn't do superhero stuff. He's done a lot of like eerie and creepy magazines from Warren Publication, and he's just magnificent. So there's 3 issue. I only got the first 2, unfortunately. I got to hunt down the third. But Topps Comics, you're probably wondering, what the hell is Topps Comics? Well, it was a trading card company. It may still be around, and for many, many, many years. And back in the old days, you got 5 cards. You got a stick of gum that was the size of a trading card, and it was hard as a rock. If you just put it in your mouth, you'd rip your gums, or you'd rip the inside of your mouth or whatnot. But if you let it just sit there for a minute, then it would start to soften, and it was really damn good, actually. But Topps Comics is fairly new. It came out about the time of the comic book speculator boom in the early 90s, but it kind of came a little too late. They did a lot of Kirby comics, Jack Kirby comics, that were not drawn by Jack Kirby. They were leftover concepts that he had done over the past, the previous 10, 20 years or so, and to varying results. They had some good talent on there, but the market was so flooded that it didn't really stand a chance, because you had all these new and exciting and wicked and awesome and in your face comic books that grabbed a lot of attention of a lot of younger, newer readers, and also my opinion of some of that stuff. When you have something like, if you have like a 4th generation impersonator of Rob Liefeld, if you're a fan and you want to be a comics artist, it emboldens you to like, hey, I'm going to break into comics. There's no stop me now, because look how shitty some of this stuff is. And that's exactly how I got into comics. I saw a lot of stuff coming out, and I was like, boy, this is crap. And I thought, well, there's no stopping me now. So I spent like a year or 2 on evenings and weekends working on my inking. And eventually I made it. I worked for DC a long time. I got to work on some bestsellers, and that's really, really cool. And I still get some royalties from some of those bestsellers, which is pretty cool. Mostly, I work for Marvel too. I grew up wanting to work for Marvel, but their royalties suck ass. They suck. But DC's always been good. They give you international sales as well as digital sales. Anyway, and collected editions and whatnot. So let's go to the whatnot. Dracula, Vlad the Impaler. I think there was a movie about this time, and then there was also a Dracula comic that was an adaptation by Dark Horse with Mike Mignola. I think, yeah. It's kind of funny because I'm not. The Universal Monster movies I came into late in my life, because as a kid in the 70s, those characters were used in cartoons and comics. You had skits on variety shows with those characters. They were all treated as a joke. So I thought they were jokes. But later on, then I saw the classics. I'm like, wow. But yeah, it's kind of odd. But anyway, I bought this because of Esteban Morato, who, he's just magnificent. And Roy Thomas loves to do adaptations of certain books, or he would do Conan. A lot of were adaptations, and a lot of more originals. So that's definitely where Roy's interest lay. And I think the results are usually stronger than his superhero stuff. I like his superhero stuff plenty. I mean, I like his Avengers and everything, but this is when Roy really shines. Man, some crazy ass detail, and the coloring by Paul Mounts it's perfect. It's very grounded, but it's also has fantastical elements. Him being a shade right there, darker shade, that's really, really nice. The story, I've seen individual illustrations by Murata that are just breathtaking, and here you have panel after panel of brilliant images. I'm just shutting up for a minute and showing you some of the art. I love that kind of coloring. It's dramatic red. It doesn't mean everybody turn orange and red. It's for drama. You know, even like blood coloring is good for drama. And this sort of thing right here, this middle panel where the guy's pointing behind him, normally this area here would be filled in with black. And instead, the choice was made to leave it open with a little bit of black there, so the colors could go in and add a deeper tone. I love that stuff. And that's not easy, at least as far as getting the penciler / anchor and the colors to be on the same page. That's beautiful stuff. And again, as a kid, as a Marvel fan, you know, I liked the house style, and anything that deviated from it was just crap, because I was king of the dorks. There we go. There is Vlad, Dracula. Man, oh man. I think I have a print of his I bought like 30 years ago somewhere amongst my junk. So, and the folds and the clothing, my oh my, especially that right there. So excellent stuff. So we're going to go from there to the not much, not quite so much, Fighting American. I saw this right away. It's published by Titan Comics, which is a British company, I believe. At least I think they published. Give me a second, would you? Let's see. Oh yeah, London. Okay, they published a 4-issue. What was it? Alien Legion by Chuck Dixon and Larry Stroman. That was exceptional. This is okay, I guess. It's certainly not deserving of the shiny paper. And the storytelling is solid. Sacred Lenin's tomb. Too late. This stuff took place in the 50s when the Cold War was starting up. But yeah, the storytelling's solid, but it's just the faces are odd. I mean, they're accurate, but they just look kind of creepy. That's kind of nifty there. And I don't know if some of this is computer drawn or what. But it's the storytelling is clear. That is a bonus, but the art's just very disappointing. Is reprinting the Simon and Kirby library, which was a great idea for all the various genres they helped create. And Speedboy, are you Speedboy? Like, hey now. Meanwhile, this is like, looks like 80-year-old legs. But Speedboy's growing up. He's becoming a man, sort of. And there's a lot of, like, the color changes are very odd. It almost makes the panels, I can't quite describe what it is, like isolated. You know, I'm not saying every panel has to be that color. Well, that's the street anyway. But it's like that and then that. Very odd, but, you know, the art is solid. It just doesn't, oh, there's something missing. And the face is just really creep me out. I mean, they move proper. I could see the muscle in their faces, or the face muscles. But it was just a big disappointment. I got this out of the dollar box. And Chaos Lad. And there's nothing in here that makes me want to come back to it, but it's they tried. I just somewhere things got cheaped out. Or they had a budget that was tight. So now we go to Spider-Man and Valkyrie. Valkyrie. I keep saying that wrong and I get corrected. Bob Layton cover. Bob Layton, who is currently, he lives in South Korea, believe it or not. Yeah, he moved there and he likes it. And that's kind of wild. And he's really enjoying the artistic community that he's around. And inside is Herb Trimpe. It's really strong stuff. Depending on the deadline, Trimpe could be really sensational or he could be serviceable. Mike Esposito does some really nice inks. And I think it's because Herb is doing some really tight penciling. Because at this point, Mike Esposito was his stuff it was more like tracing, very simple stuff, and kind of flattened out a lot of stuff like Harry Gamble and even an issue with George Perez on Avengers. This is a follow-up to the previous issue. Blah 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 blah. But you know what? When I was a kid, I was collecting so many Marvel things. I read every single one of those. Now, if I read a collection of books, like maybe not this or whatever, I will skip a lot of the captions. Hey, prepare to be slaughtered. But nice storytelling here. Really nice, solid story. And Trimpe's put a lot of energy into this. He's put a lot of detail into it as well. So, and drawing a Pegasus. I've said this before, horses are hard to draw, but if you incorporate wings into it, you have to really be a damn good artist to pull that off. That's kind of, sort of there. But otherwise, I think when Thor comes on the scene, that I think Trimpe sort of tries to go to some quick Kirby type stiffness. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean just like kinetic wise. Kirby did great kinetics in the 60s. Well, how many pads are in the back? Okay, there we go. There's Trimpe doing G.I. Joe. Larry Hama, Herb Trimpe, and Bob McLeod. First came out, I thought, oh, how dumb. This thing sold like friggin' hotcakes. And, I mean, it sold a ton. And I was really glad for those guys because there were royalties involved at this point. And this book lasted a long, long time. And it shows what I know. So, and I don't mean to say Kirby stiffness. I mean more like Larry Lieber type stiffness. So, on to Vigilante. And I got, because it says Ross Andrew. The story is pretty good. It's not great. But I'm starting to pick up the Vigilante because of it has a good pedigree of artists. It starts off with Keith Pollard, then it has Ross Andrew, then it has Gil Kane, and I think Jim Backey, something like that, one of the Brits. So he has some really strong stuff. And Rick Magyar, they misspelled his name, Rick Magyar, but I knew him from CrossGen, and he is a magnificent inker. He's around a lot of places, I mean, he's still actively inking. I just can't. He moves around. He's very much in demand. So anyway, JJ, who was this 20-year-old genius, he got killed the previous issue, and Vigilante feels like he's responsible now. The story itself, this one, it's got a lot of I don't want to say dirty, hairy type stuff, just a lot of killing of the bad guys. And what makes it work for me is the Ross Andrews storytelling. I mean, he's still at the top of his game. Nice little touch there. I think Magyar added the Zipatone. Now, motorcycles are usually hard to draw too, but this was like a nice cheat, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's like you don't have to see, all the pipes and such. Here's this underwater gizmo. It's kind of wacky, but what the hell? Look at that. That's like straight out of Spider-Man. This is really interesting. The choice that Rick Magyar made. I love that. It has this big old fleshy feel to it. That costume design is really kick-ass. George Perez designed it for, I think, the second New Teen Titans annual. So this is a little, I think what happened is maybe there was too much going on for Andrew to draw bigger. It's kind of sedate for his stuff. That's just maybe in persnickety. Still great stuff. So Vigilante is pretty cool. Like I said, I may be buying more issues. So, and now we go to West Coast Avengers #1, the first issue of the ongoing series. Around 1984, Hawkeye had founded the West Coast Avengers via an adventure that the individual Avengers had on the West Coast versus Graviton, who was one of the toughest foes the Avengers ever fought, created by Jim Shooter. And I don't know if Sal Buscema or John Romita designed the costume, but it's really, really cool. Now, the miniseries sold really well. It had Roger Stern, had Bob Hall, and Brett Breeding. It was just really, really great stuff. And a few years passed, and I remember thinking the regular Avengers was getting kind of stodgy. It was just, I don't know why. Got into the Eternals, who I hate, the Unimind and all that shit. So, but then I knew this was coming. I saw a preview in Amazing Heroes by Fantagraphics. It was a fanzine, but it was also got a lot of interviews, and they talked about this. I was like, oh, I was so stoked. And Al Milgrom was on the art, but with Joe Sinnott. They had both done the regular Avengers, and they moved over. So I had not seen this image. I only heard about what's coming up. So I buy this off the newsstands, and I'm like, holy shit, look at that. Iron Man's changed his armor completely. So bear in mind, this is 1986. Iron Man had the same red and gold costume for 20 years prior as his standard costume. Now, Bob Layton designed 3 or 4 special mission type armors that deviated wildly. They were more. He compared it to like racing, where you have like a Formula One versus a NASCAR versus some other, custom cars, which made a lot of sense. But all of a sudden, he's no longer the Golden Avenger; he's the Silver Avenger. And the crazy thing about this was that this came out 2 months before the big reveal in Iron Man number 200. I didn't even see that coming at all. So this blew me away just on that alone. Always loved Wonder Man. Always loved Hawkeye since I was a kid. Mockingbird is his new bride. Tigra returns. She was introduced and then treated like crap in Jim Shooter's his second run of Avengers. She basically showed up, was a coward, had a real sleazy attitude, and just got the boot. There was almost no purpose in Shooter introducing her. But that's like close to my favorite look with Wonder Man. I like the goggles. They took the goggles off. I really hated it. So 39-page epic. And it starts off with someone's buzzing Cap and his new bride, Mockingbird, while they are making out. So Tom Warzikowski on the letters, Steve Englehart writing. Steve Englehart and Alan Milgrom reuniting after doing Captain Marvel about a little more than 10 years prior. Here comes Henry Pym. Joe Sinnott really brings a lot to the table here, because there's issues where Milgrom inks himself, and it's not that. It's not good. So Wonder Man is taking Tiger for flying Tiger home. This should have been a page flip. They should have changed the format because it's Iron Man. Wow. And I remember seeing this. I was so jazzed. I was like, look at that. That's Iron Man. Now, the Iron Man who had joined the original West Coast Avengers in 1984 was James Rhodes, Rhodey, wearing the gold and red armor. So that's another interesting thing, because he doesn't say right away which Iron Man he was, because he went through the Armor War. No, the Armor Wars didn't even happen yet. But this is a lot of fun. It's really a lot of fun. So blah blah blah. But I always wondered about poor Tom Orzechowski. He was doing like Claremont's X-Men at the same time, and I just didn't know how he did it. So. Get this. Henry Pym, I should have known I'd run into him someday. I wonder if he's ever forgiven me for going out with his ex-wife, the Wasp, so soon after the divorce. I'm going to add that link. I did an episode, a link in the description at the bottom. You have got to see it. It is so tacky. It was a Jim Shooter thing, I think. I don't know, but it was like this one shot that was never referred to again, which is just totally ridiculous. So, that's a great Al Milgrom thumb right there. So, double-size issue. And I really dig this. Here comes Ultron. I'm a little tired of Ultron at this point. I thought they should save him for more special stuff. Milgrom really steps up with these 4 panels here. He's trying to make a shot through all these crossbars. And they start falling. And I love that whole concept. I think it was really smart. Really smart and not easy to do. Look at the ribs. That middle panel there looks very curvy. I'm not saying Milgrom swiped, it's just that he could pull that off once in a while. So you have Jane the Wasp like talking to Henry Pym, her ex. And they're kind of copacetic at this point. They're kind of, I can't quite describe it, but here comes the Man-Ape from John Buscema issue, I think 78 or something, of the Avengers. And he was also in the Black Panther movie. And the guy who portrayed him was excellent. So you have Tony putting on this helmet in the most awkward way. It's a very curvy kind of helmet thing. Here comes another curvy type pose with Goliath with the Man-Ape. And I'm kind of like, if you're next to Goliath, unless you are like indestructible like Ultron, I don't know if I would necessarily say I'd partner it up with anybody. So, some great action there. My man Iron Man kicking ass. Oh. Wonder Man gets smashed into the ground by Goliath. So this goes on. Here's the thing, though. It goes into the Vision and Scarlet Witch miniseries by Englehart and Richard Howell. It's double-sized. It's kind of not me. And then it goes back to this regular-sized second issue. Then it goes back to the Vision and Scarlet Witch second issue. And it retreads... Oy vey. It retreads the family dynamic of the Vision and Wonder Man and Ultron and Grim Reaper and Goliath. Man-Ape's, sort of out of that circle. And it's like, even then, that stuff was done to death. And then later on, when Roy Thomas decided to cover that same ground shortly after John Byrne left West Coast Avengers, I thought, stop playing this out. And then when Kurt Busiek and George Perez came back, the Avengers, they brought it back again. And I'm like, at this point, I felt pretty much all Scarlet Witch and Vision, everything had been said about them. I felt like there was nothing more to say. And as far as the arrangements here, I feel the same way too. It's like you're beating it, subject to death. So that's just my opinion. But this first issue still blows me away, though, and it's a fantastic cover by Al. His stuff would get really, really rushed later on. It was a big letdown. I kind of dropped the book after a while because the art was really, I don't know, super fast. And Al, I think Al was like doing 2 books a month or something like that. And, well, anyway, but I've always had this as a fantastic memory. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please double check if you're still subscribed, and have please click the bell for all notifications. There are some bigger YouTubers than I am who are getting subscribers dropped off because of those evil algorithms out there. So please double check. Leave comments if you what you felt about the West Coast Avengers, what you felt about Vigilante, what you felt about Valkyrie and Herb Trimpe's era of Spider-Man, of Marvel Team Up, which I think was good. What you think of that? It is a good attempt, but just not there. And Esteban Morato and Roy Thomas. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts below. Please leave as many comments as you can. I know there's a lot of shy viewers out there who, don't comment, but even if you just say, hey, that's cool, or I remember buying that. And if you have a differing opinion than mine, I welcome it. I like it. It's like, and I will not be rude, and I will not discount your opinion. Everybody's got an opinion, and it's like, I like to hear what other people have to say. And sometimes I also come around and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. Also, I'm not a human Wikipedia. You can maybe fill me in on some of the information of, or how these came to be, or stuff like that. So, anyway, like I said, I'm going to have a link in the description below about Tony Stark dating Janet Van Dyne right after poor Hank Pym's divorce. And I say poor Hank Pym because he was written as evil by Jim Shooter. So I blame Shooter more than I do blame Yellow Jacket. That's it, everybody. Talk to y'all later. Bye.